Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Please remain standing as we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You may be seated. Now, I am going to call on my great pastor, Eric Camp, who is the pastor of my church and just a totally awesome guy. Pastor, you on the phone?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is Eric Camp. So we're going to start off with a prayer from Pastor Camp. Pastor, you got the floor.
We ask for your continued favor and direction in all things, Lord. We love you. We thank you, Jesus. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Okay. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started with the consent docket. Number one, adoption of proposed consent docket for November 2021 meeting of the commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, next is the energy agenda, discussion and possible action regarding proposed order and docket number 2013 UN 234, Spire, Mississippi Incorporated, notice of intent of Wilmot Gas, an oil company to establish a supplemental growth rider. Mr. Mabry.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, on July 21st, Spire filed a notice of intent to extend its supplemental growth rider, which is also commonly referred to as the SGR, on December 3rd, 2015 in the same docket. The Commission approved an SGR pilot program for the company. The SGR is designed to encourage economic development and job creation in the state of Mississippi by incenting the company to extend gas service for major commercial, industrial, and manufacturing projects, which would otherwise be infeasible for the company to fund. The original pilot program authorized the company to invest without prior commission approval up to $5 million in select qualifying projects over the term of the SGR. The term of the original pilot program expired on October 15th, 2018. To date, the company has not made any capital investments covered under the SGR. However, it has included the benefit of the SGR in several competitive bid packages. The SGR will play a significant role in determining the feasibility of certain projects to attract potential customers. The company is requesting to extend the SGR for an additional 3 years through October 15th, 2024 from October 15th, 2021. Staff's review of the following is complete. Staff recommends approval of the proposed order extending the SGR through October 15th, 2024.
Any questions?
I move we approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
I do have a quick question or comment.
Good.
Does Wilmot Gas still exist in any shape, form at all?
It was purchased by Spire, so I guess it's still technically Wilmot, but
I was just wondering, if
George is here.
it's notice intent of Wilmot Gas and Oil. Even
Commissioner,
though
I think
That's the original docket.
that's just the original NRA. It's probably still styled that way.
I got somebody that can answer that question.
He's right. It's the docket. It started when it was Wilman Gas, and just the name has changed. It's the same entity.
But I just, for future references, there an opportunity or ability to reflect the actual name of the companies going forward, just for confusion or.
How does that work when, is there, in the sale and transfer? Because I know that's come up in a couple of times before. Is there a way, Catherine, I guess, go through those sale and transfers and move those that way? Because there was a couple about a year ago. Okay. Okay.
I didn't know what procedure and protocol was to create better clarity over. 100%. Okay. Well, didn't mean to gum it up, but just had a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go on to the telecommunications agenda. number 1, discussion and possible action regarding proposed order and docket number 2021 UA 148 BCM1 Incorporated, joint application for BCM1 Incorporated. Wholesale Carrier Services, Inc., BCM1 Group Holdings Incorporated for approval of intermediate transfer of control. Ms. Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This petition is for authority to complete a restructuring transaction. So the reorganization will happen at the holding company level, but ultimate control of BCM1, Wholesale Carrier Services, and BCM1 Group Holdings will not change. Due to the pro forma nature of the transaction, FCC approval is not required prior to the consummation of the transaction. Instead, a notice filing will be made by the applicants with the FCC after the transaction closes. The proposed transaction will not result in any assignment of certificates, licenses, assets, or customers. It'll be seamless and transparent to customers and will not result in any changes to existing rates, terms, and conditions. The transaction also will not result in the change of any management or other personnel. Staff has reviewed the petition and spoken with counsel and finds the petition to be in order. Staff recommends approval.
All right, is there any questions?
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now on to the water and sewer agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding proposed order and docket number 2021 UA 112, Town of New Augusta, ordering and granting supplemental certificate of public convenience and necessity. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The order before the commission grants the petition filed by the Town of New Augusta, which was filed on June the 14th, 2021. In its petition, New Augusta seeks a supplemental certificate of public convenience and necessity from the commission to construct, maintain, and operate a water system within the specified area of Perry County. The commission initially granted New Augusta a CPCN for water service within a specified area of Perry County in docket 2019 UA 75. Granting New Augusta's petition in this docket will enlarge its water sewer service area. The commission has jurisdiction to decide the matter. Due and proper notice of the pendency of the proceeding has been given. There are no motions to intervene, objections, protests, or comments filed in the docket. New Augusta is ready, willing, fit, and able to construct, operate, and maintain the water system in the additional area requested. New Augusta has demonstrated the public convenience and necessity of the expansion of its water service into the additional area requested to be certificated in this docket. On the advice of the Mississippi Public Utility staff and after our own review, the legal staff recommends that the commission grant the petition and issue a supplemental CPCN to New Augusta to construct, operate, and maintain a water system within the area described in the Exhibit A attached to the order. The granting of the supplemental certificate is, however, conditioned on New Augusta filing its notice of intent to establish initial rates with the commission on or before December 1st, 2021.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I move we approve.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. So we're going to move on to the administrative agenda. Number 1, discussion and possible action regarding approval of commission's minutes from October 21 term of the commission.
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2019 UA 232, Entergy Mississippi LLC, order implementing consult recommendations for future long-term planning reports. Ms. Dixon.
As you know, Entergy filed its first IRP report under Rule 29 on June 15th. Thereafter, as permitted by the rule, several interveners filed written comments on the report, and staff retained Bates White to review the report and evaluate the company's adherence to the reporting requirements of Rule 29. Staff then filed the Bates White report as its comments on September 10th. After reviewing the IRP report and all written comments submitted, it's the opinion of Commission staff that Entergy has complied with the enumerated reporting requirements of the rule. Therefore, there do not appear to be any reporting deficiencies within the meaning of Rule 29-105.8. Nevertheless, Bates White made certain recommendations for things that should be incorporated into future long-term planning reports, and Entergy has agreed to implement those recommendations. Entergy has also agreed to implement certain stakeholder recommendations that are aimed at improving their IRP process. Since the Commission's implementation of the new Rule 29 is still in its infancy, Commission staff believes that memorializing these matters in a written order will provide helpful clarification as to the scope of information that the Commission expects to see in future IRP reports. As a result, we prepared an order that instructs Entergy to incorporate the following into its future Rule 29 reports. Number one, address material changes, including the new loss of load expectation methodology in Entergy's December 2022 midpoint supply side update. Number two, consider RFP options beyond the targeting of 100 megawatts of solar in consultation with Commission and staff. Number three, include a summary table in future reports containing more detailed explanations of the futures considered, specifically the reference, low, mid, and high futures. Number four, include a table of contents and an introductory section in future reports that sets forth the changes from prior reports. Number five, provide future interveners with notice of all Rule 29 related filings and original copies of such documents. Number six, provide advance notice of the initial public workshop and the subsequent technical conference, along with advance copies of presentations that will be used in those proceedings. And number seven, update the renewable resource pricing in the IRP portfolio analysis and include such evaluation in Entergy's December 2022 midpoint supply side update.
Okay. Any questions?
No questions. I do want to comment that, like we expressed the last RRP with Mississippi Power, as well as the stakeholder participation, I want to thank those who are participating in that as we go through our first cycle of integrated resource planning and the associated materials and input, methodology development that is associated with that. So I just want to thank all the stakeholders, the utilities, et cetera, and others for assisting us and allowing us to really refine and define what long-term resource planning looks like in the state of Mississippi.
I just had a question. Ms. Dixon, when is the 18-month midpoint? When is that actual on the calendar?
It's in December of 2022 is when it will be for Entergy. It would run 18 months after the filing of their original IRP. So PECO filed theirs like in March, and then Entergy filed theirs in June. So it would be 18 months from June.
All right. And so would it, and I'm not making this in the form of a motion or anything, just for consumption. I mean, would it make sense to look at, if that's in December, sometime in the summer of next year, what are some of the lessons learned in this? We've had several hiccups since this IRP has been promulgated, and some things make it be better, and obviously we're adopting an order today that kind of cleans up some of that. I just would encourage the staff to take a look at, in the summer of 2022, what are some of the issues that could be avoided, because I think that midpoint check in December of 2022 is going to be very key as to looking at what, when we came out of the gate with IRP, what with that should be amended to make it a more transparent and robust type of process. And we all know with everything moving, you're going to have a lot of impact from things from an infrastructure bill to other federal policies that are going to be coming down that are going to have an impact on this. And if we wait, and I'm not suggesting y'all would, because I know you get up an hour earlier than I do to be on top of these things, but if formally we're not talking about that or doing something related to it before December of 2022, circumstances could just overwhelm us on that. And I've not been particularly elated at how the IRP process has worked out, from the workshops to transparency and other things, in which maybe we can do a better job of and get those interveners who are interested in this, working with the utilities to look at some ways to avoid those problems in the future. So that, my point being, after December of 2022, if the commission takes a look at that, if there are further things that need to be cleaned up in that process, we can be ahead of that schedule.
The only thing I would say is that timing might need to be adjusted a little bit back, actually pushing it a little sooner, because if you're wanting to stay ahead of the filing of both midpoint supply side updates, I believe Mississippi Power will be filing theirs roughly 3-4 months before Entergy's.
Yes, ma'am.
So if Entergy's is December, you'd be looking at August, September, filing for PECO. So if you're wanting to back it up a couple months, that might be something that the commission needs to.
My hunch is that there's just going to be a lot of activity on a lot of different levels of government that affect much of what's in that IRP that we can't project today as to what that will be, and maybe some of those things will be known knowns at that point and may adjust some of it. So that was all my comments, Mr. Chairman.
And we also, taking into account the annual filings, the annual energy delivery plan, capital budget, transmission development, transmission distribution, a lot of things will also reflect some of those changes as the IRP cycle continues on as stated by Rule 29. So I think those are some lesson opportunities to catch up or be aware of some of those changes that may come about through those reporting processes.
I move
Mr.
we,
Hammond, you good?
did we need a, did you move?
I did not.
All right, I
don't
move
think
we
have
approve.
a motion yet.
Yeah, I move we approve the order as presented.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, on to number 3, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2020 UN 162, Great River Utility Operating Company, order referral. Mr. Hammonds.
Commissioner, I'm actually going to take that, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
This
that's-
is,
That's fine.
I'm sorry, but this is just an order referring it to me for a hearing.
Okay.
I move we approve item 3 as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was easy. Okay. All right, we're going to take 4 and 5 up together. So I'm going to say 4 is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2021 UN 139 Superior Utilities Incorporated, order of referral, and discussion, number 5, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2021 UN 140 Superior Utilities order of referral. Go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are easy as well. These are just orders of referral, one being for an increase of rates in the water service and the other being for an increase of rates in the sewer service. And both of these are going to be referred to Mr. Hammond.
Okay.
Move we approve as presented.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 6, discussion and possible action with docket number 1977 UA 3281 Brignell Sewer Company Incorporated, order reopening and referring docket to hearing examiner for investigation and show cause hearing. But we're doing 6 through 9 together, okay? So I'll say number 7 is discussion and possible action in docket number 2007 UA 378 White Sands Community Service LLC, order reopening and referring docket to hearing examiner for investigation, show cause hearing. Number 8, discussion and possible action in docket number 2008 UA 009 Anglin Utility Company LLC, order reopening and referring docket to hearing examiner for investigations and show cause hearing. And number 9 is discussion and possible action, docket number 2008 UA 051 MD Utilities LLC, order reopening and referring docket to hearing examiner for investigation and show cause hearing. On those, Ms. Taylor, you can proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These just reopen the CPCN dockets on these sewer utilities so that we can conduct a Rule 15.102 investigation into the service being provided by these sewer utilities. It's believed that these utilities are no longer in operation and don't have any customers within the state, and we just want to cancel the certificate, so we have to hold the 777-321 hearing on that, and that just refers these to me so that I can get those cleaned up.
Sounds good.
Move we approve items 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. So we're going to move to number 10. Discussion and possible action in La Papillon line, never can say that right. Order establishing investigative docket regarding sewer services provided by La Papillon and referring to Chairman Maxwell, me.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now, discussion and possible action in honoring Casey Seals. Doug, Michelle, Casey, if you would, please, if you would just come stand up there by that podium. We are very honored here at the commission to have you guys here today to show our appreciation and honor Casey and his life, which we talked about earlier, and thank you for sharing this information with the other commissioners. We put together a proposed order, or not a proposed order, a proclamation as a resolution to honor Casey Thomas Seal and his life. And we want to honor him today because he's a special guy, and you guys are all special too. So in honoring him, we're going to honor you, and I'll read this. Whereas Casey Thomas Seal was a lifelong resident of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and whereas Casey Thomas Seal worked selfishly as a public servant, first responder, and utility lineman, and whereas Casey Thomas Seal, an unsung hero, lost his life in the line of duty in service to others on June 26, 2021, and whereas the Mississippi Public Service Commission recognizes Seal's ultimate sacrifice and the dedication to delivery electricity and utility customers, and whereas in honor of recognition of Seal, the United States flag was flown Wednesday, October the 6th, 2021, in front of the Woolfolk State Office Building in Jackson, Mississippi. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mississippi Public Service Commission recognizes and honors Casey Thomas Seal and presents this flag to his family in remembrance of Seal's bravery, dedication, and sacrifice. Please feel free to tell us a little bit about that.
Would you like to talk? My wife says, you don't always have to talk.
I want you to talk. Casey, I want you to say something.
Yeah.
I see you back in the...
Casey, 132 days ago, we got a call on where I'm going to get it. There was an accident, an unsurvivable accident. But it was God's will. We all believe in God. We believe in his will. He took him. The highest honor given to Casey, the priest did his funeral 2 weeks later. He said, Casey Seal was a prophet on this earth, and God called him home. He did unselfishly. He did things because it was the right thing to do. He did things because he loved people. He did things not wanting anything in return except friendship. I always tell people, when you hear that song, Humble and Kind by Tim McGraw, do an act of kindness. Say a prayer for someone. And just remember Casey and the good he did in life. Continue to pray for our family. We're blessed. We're truly blessed. So many more people in much worse condition than we are. Continue to pray for us and all the others. Thank you so much, Commissioners.
Well, we want to step around and present you with this and the flag. It's rare that we get all the things put down in the office, but we're honored to do it. And just on behalf of us, appreciate it. So here's signed proclamation. And this is the flag that we flew over the. Make that. I look forward to seeing y'all.
Continue to do things. Thank you so much. Yeah. I apologize for Miss Katie. I talked to her on the phone for 30 minutes yesterday. We both cried. It's a story, right? It's a great story. Get on Facebook, look up Casey Seal. He was an amazing young man. Short life he led. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for coming. Okay, thank you again for coming out, and it's our pleasure to be able to have you here today. All right, so finally we have the hearing agenda, which is 2021 UA 106 Mississippi Power Company. It's in reference to petition of Mississippi Power Company for a certificate of public convenience and necessity authorizing the construction, acquisition, extension, operation, and maintenance of transmission and related facilities and right-of-ways in George County, Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to maybe recess for about 5 minutes and let the attorneys get set up for that hearing?
Yep. We'll
Mr.
recess
Hammond.
for 5 minutes.
Were we not gonna make an announcement today about the next steps in our net metering process?
Yes, Commissioner. I didn't know if you want to do that now or at the conclusion of the hearing, but
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure. Okay.
Okay, we'll recess for 5 minutes.
Go ahead and do it. I'll say do it now during the regular meeting.
You want to do it now?
yeah, I think that's,
Let's do it.
do you want me to?
I don't know, I
Yeah,
just
I was
was
gonna
understanding we
let-
was gonna make an announcement
No,
about it. I
yeah,
don't
I was
know.
going to let you do it, but I can, do you want
Let's
to
just
mention?
take that in the recess, because that's, I mean, my understanding was y'all were gonna present it.
Okay,
So
I thought you wanted to mention it.
No.
We can powwow.
That's what y'all get paid to do.
All right,
Much
so
more
we'll-
than us.
We're going to recess for 5 minutes. Thank you. Call to order, back to order. Open up with the hearing petition of Mississippi Power Company for certificate of public convenience and necessity, authorizing the construction, acquisition, extension, operation, and maintenance of transmission and related facilities in the right-of-way in George County, Mississippi. But prior to doing that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Bailey and to discuss what we just talked about.
Okay, just a continuation or a follow-on issue, another item to the agenda we messed up there. What we're wanting to indicate is getting permission and commission action in regards to our net metering rule. As you may remember, I believe it was January this year, we opened a docket to review as part of Rule 29, not Rule 29, the net metering rule, a 5-year reopener. Opened that docket in January. In February, we asked for comments from stakeholders, general parties of interest. We have since been reviewing that rule. While we have not quite to the point of issuing a proposed rule for comment, we're getting very close. Prior to the next docket meeting, we should have that prepared. Rather than waiting until the next docket meeting to issue that proposal, we're seeking action upon completion of the proposed rule to issue that for public comment per Administrative Procedure Act requirements and issue that from the Office of the Executive Secretary. Did I say that correct?
I think that's right. Let me ask this question, Mr. Hammond, on the procedure on that. What is an estimated time that proposed rule will go out, just so the parties involved can know?
I think probably conservatively 3 weeks, the proposed rule would get out. That same rule would invite comments for a period of likely,
I think 45 days is what seeking.
that's correct, and there'd be a comment period and also set that rule for hearing pursuant to the Administrative Procedures Act.
But the proposed order that would be issued and sent out in the month of November would deal with the Administrative Procedures Act reinstatement or continuation of the existing net metering rule, with also addressing in the order, not in the rule itself, but in the order itself, constructs and policies proposals related to community solar, for instance, related to schools and to non-governmental entities, agricultural-based type of community solar programs. I mean, you would have the rule that deals with the things that are in the Administrative Procedures Act, net metering, that construct. But then secondly, some guidance related to an invitation for programs related to community solar. Is that our goal, to get that out in that form?
That, what you're describing would be would be contemplated in the final order adopting the rule, not this order that we're talking about in the next 3 weeks, which is setting the rule for comment itself. A final rule with what you're describing, or the final order that would accompany the rule at the end of the process, would have those things teed up.
Well, why wouldn't you just put them in what you're going to put out in November?
Well, what Commissioner Bailey's, for purposes of November, would just be a red line of the actual rule itself and a simple procedural order inviting comments on that rule and setting that rule for hearing. What you're describing would be in the substantive order of the commission approving the final rule.
The point is, what's wrong with putting that? Why, if you're dealing with that set of public policy, what's wrong with if you're going to put it in the order? I understand we've got two different things.
Okay,
Right? We've got an APA requirement. We got to follow that by law. But secondly, is you've got a set of guiding policies related to community solar, which were not in the net metering rule, but in which, if the commission wants to address, you just get the benefit of getting that out at the same time and getting those comments back in. And I do want to say thank you to the utilities and the interveners. I know there's been a lot of work done in trying to get some agreements and trying to work out some things. So we appreciate their efforts, particularly Entergy and Mississippi Power. I know they've been working on this with many of the interveners. But if we don't look at it from that standpoint, you're going to lose time, are you not?
So these matters are separate but intertwined. So
Correct.
I guess you're asking to initiate feedback regarding a community solar and associated functionality of that program, feedback at the
Yeah,
same
because
time.
you're gonna have to get it at some point, if you're gonna address it in the order. I was just trying to give parties, both, all interested intervenors a chance in that period in which you're gonna have to wait because of the net metering rule, to give that same amount of time to run concurrently for comments related to community solar, just killing two birds with one stone.
Right, make sure I understand. You're talking about in the order that we're talking about the next 3 weeks, expanding the scope of invited comments to more than just the rule, but also some other topics like
community
community solar.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay,
That's the way I understand it.
gotcha. Yes, sir.
I'm good with it. Do I need to make a motion in pursuit of that, or is that instruction from the bench, or how does that get memorialized?
I think you could make a motion to direct commission legal staff to prepare an order to be executed by the executive secretary of the commission.
What you just said. I make a motion.
I second that. Does that deal, is that motion though include net metering and a community solar? The net metering rulemaking with guidance related to community solar, is that your motion? I
That
second
is
it then.
my motion via Ross to be reflected. Yes, sir.
All right, and I second it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now let's call for the hearing. I need entry of appearances, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, this is Leo Manuel. I'm with the with the law firm of Balch and Bingham. And I'm representing Mississippi Power Company, the petitioner in this matter. My address is 1310 25th Avenue, Gulfport, Mississippi, 39501.
Okay, Mr. Manuel, you can proceed, please.
Yeah, this is Ross Hammonds for the commission, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Emily Kruger for the staff, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is that everybody? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mississippi Power Company calls Mr. Patrick Leathers to the stand.
Okay. Will you swear him in?
Thank you. Mr. Leathers, can you please state your full name and your position with Mississippi Power Company for the record?
My name is Patrick Leathers. I'm the Power Delivery Operations Manager for Mississippi Power.
Okay, and Mr. Leathers, Mississippi Power Company filed a petition for a certificate of public convenience and necessity with the commission in this docket on June 2nd, 2021. Are you aware of that petition?
Yes,
And in conjunction with that petition, pre-filed direct testimony was filed by you in support of the petition. Is that right?
that's correct.
And did you have a chance to review, was that petition and testimony prepared under your supervision and control?
Yes, it was.
And did you have a chance to review both the petition and your testimony prior to testifying here today?
Yes,
In that review, is everything reflected in both the petition and in your testimony true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
yes, it is.
Do you have any additions or corrections to either the petition or testimony here today?
No,
Okay, if I were to ask you the questions contained in your pre-filed direct testimony, if I were to ask you those questions here today, would your answers in fact be the same as they are presented in your testimony?
yes, they would.
And you had 2 exhibits appended to your testimony, is that right?
That's correct.
And Exhibit 1 was a public exhibit, which was a map depicting the location of the facilities being proposed here. Is that right?
Yes,
Exhibit 2 was confidential. That's Exhibit PWL2, and that was presenting the line loading difference between the existing facility and the proposed facility, right?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like, if there's no objection, to present a few exhibits into the record based upon Mr. Leather's testimony. Exhibit 1 would be a copy of the petition dated June 2nd, 2021, filed by Mississippi Power Company.
Okay.
Exhibit 2 is a copy of Mr. Patrick Leather's pre-filed direct testimony and Exhibit PWL1, which are both public exhibits, so I'm making that a composite Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And then for Exhibit 3, which is a confidential exhibit, I would offer Exhibit PWL2, which is the only confidential exhibit in this case. And
Okay.
I have copies of all of these. If anybody needs a copy, I'm happy to provide the commission or the staff or the commission attorney copies. Mr. Leathers, as part of the petition or your submittal, Mississippi Power Company also submitted initial disclosures to the public utility staff. Is that right?
That's correct.
And there were 18 total initial disclosures submitted, some in public version and some in confidential version, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to introduce those into the record. I don't think it's necessary. I just wanted the record to reflect that information was submitted and received. I guess, Mr. Leathers, at this time, I would like you to spend a minute just describing to the commission what Mississippi Power Company is requesting approval for, the purpose of it, and a general description of the facilities that we intend to construct upon approval.
Okay. This project involves the reconductoring and rebuilding of the Mississippi Power's existing transmission line, 115 line that runs from Lucedale to Vestry in George County. This project was identified as part of our routine transmission planning and pole inspection process. The project will involve replacing the wooden pole structures. Some of those structures are 60 years in age. In our recent pole line inspection, we identified that they did not meet the structural integrity, so those poles have been identified for replacement. The other piece of the project involves the reconductor, which will increase the capacity of the line. That project was identified as part of our transmission planning project. The benefits of this project is it will allow us to retain the reliability of the transmission system. It also allows us to remain in compliance with the NERC transmission planning standards. The total cost of the project is $18.2 million. We anticipate starting the project upon approval from the commission with an estimated completion date of December of 2022. This project is also included in our recent 2022 capital plan that was filed yesterday.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. And so is the cost and schedule information contained in this docket consistent with what Mississippi Power Company filed yesterday in its capital plan?
Yes, it is.
And I'm not sure you mentioned, but do you know about how long of a line this is, or this segment?
It's approximately 18 miles.
And so with that, I would tender the witness to questions to the staff and commission.
Do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
I have a few, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Leathers, regarding the construction method being used for this project, can you talk a little bit more about that, what method will be used?
Yes, the new construction will be concrete single pole line tangent construction. It will be designed to meet wind speeds of up to 140 miles an hour.
Well, that was going to be my next question, actually. One thing that we have been talking about is the location of George County being so close to the coast, hurricane seasons, and we did have a question about the wind rating that this line will have just in light of those.
Right. So it is being designed to the 140 mile an hour wind speeds.
Are there, your initial disclosure did break down the cost. You mentioned $18.2 million, and it's divided into the estimated categories, estimated cost per category. Are there any long-term right-of-way maintenance costs using this construction method?
There's no additional right-of-way that we anticipate as part of this project. It will all be contained on the existing right-of-way.
Thank you, Mr. Leathers. No further questions.
I got one. How many wooden transmission towers you have left on Mississippi Power system?
Ooh, on the entire system, I'm not sure, Commissioner. On this particular line, there's 230 wooden structures, and we're going back with 130 concrete structures. So that's the advantage of going to concrete. You can increase your pole span spacing, your heights, go back with fewer poles.
Introducers gave us a listing of theirs and their rip and replace efforts. I was just wondering from a system-wide, how many you have. Thank you.
So you mentioned you're replacing 71 poles. Is that over the entire 18 miles?
So the 71 poles were those that were at 1961 vintage that was identified as part of our pole inspection. We'll actually be replacing all of the wood poles associated with this line.
Okay.
So with concrete.
Replace all. What is the process of evaluating the integrity of a pole? Does the transmission differ from distribution, or is it the same inspection process?
It's relatively the same. So the inspection process, when you're doing a ground line inspection, you're looking at the pole integrity, checking for woodpecker holes, seeing if there's any decay, rot, any wood insect boring, termites, those kind of things. You also dig down around the ground. We actually utilize a contractor that does our pole line inspection process. They'll dig down, check the integrity of the pole. They'll identify the circumference, and so if it's below a certain amount, then they'll reject it and identify it for replacement.
So this project actually entails removal of all wood poles along this 18-mile segment with replacement of concrete.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay, all right.
Good deal.
I know you mentioned in here about the work of either competitively bid or selected contractor under requirement. Have y'all made a decision on that yet, and how the Hire Mississippi rules may be influenced by that?
So we do have Mississippi transmission contractors that work on our system that compete along with the competitive bid process. We have not assigned this project to a particular crew at this time.
Thank you.
I move, Mr. Mayor had something else.
So Mississippi Power Company has no further witnesses. Mr. Chairman, I would remind the commission that we have proposed an order to your staff, and I think it's been reviewed by your legal staff as well as the Mississippi Public Utility staff. If you're inclined to approve the project, then that documentation is available to you.
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. No further questions. We will set to